In this video, we're going to look at IRB, which is a command line tool. IRB stands for Interactive Ruby. It comes installed when you get Ruby on your system, and you access it again from the command line, and you simply issue IRB. That'll put you at a command prompt, and it's essentially a little area where you can go and test different scripts. You can even load files from here if you wish and access them. Or you can even execute IRB if you have like a class file that you want it to go ahead and load up for you. It's very powerful in that it lets you interact with, say, an application from the console like this, so you can fool around with different test scenarios of your application. Now, the simple prompt, we can just do some simple little things such as that. You can also just issue simple commands, but you can also define, say, a function. And now you'll see that I gave a little, I put a space in there saying, hey, I expect some code here to complete out something. So I'm going to put a little function there. And now I need to end it. Now a couple things of what's going on here. First off, I've defined this function. So if I just type F, it should print out hello. So pretty simple little function. You could do this in Ruby file 2 and run it just out of your text file through the interpreter, but here you're doing it real time. Now, this prompt looks a little complicated, and you can actually simplify it if you want, but essentially what it's telling you is a line number, and then this is the nesting level. In other words, once I start something like this definition, it's going to nest in a little bit, so it goes in one. And say if I'm defining a class or something, then it would maybe go a little bit further. In fact, I'll show you that in a second. So that's the nesting level there. This little asterisk just means that, hey, I'm expecting some code that I need to interpret here, and since a blank line isn't any code or anything for it to interpret, it's saying I'm still expecting something that I can look at and deal with. And finally, this AND closes us off, and you'll notice that down here we go back to the nesting level of 0. Now, what's this mysterious nil here? Well, everything in Ruby, every expression like this is a function. It returns a value. And of course, when we type this in, it returns nil. There's nothing coming back from this in typing this in. And keep that in mind as you deal with different functions in Ruby, that everything is coming back with some kind of value. Now, if we go ahead and say G equals HELLO, and so I'm going to say G, so that's returning, it's not nil now, it has a value of hello. Let's do something odd here and see what happens if we do this. So I'm just entering in an if statement. Actually, I don't want to do an if statement. Let's just do this and see what happens. So we get false because they don't evaluate out the same because of that nil. It's returning nil for us here. But I could modify that and do something, where I'm getting a function coming back and it checks against this, and it gets kind of interesting what you can do with different things. So IRB is a very powerful tool to sit and play around with, and you're going to see it in more of these videos that we are doing, where you actually enter IRB, issue some commands, set up some classes so you can interact with those classes. Let's create a quick class here. Now, one thing you're going to notice that Ruby expects the case on certain things to be of a certain way. Specifically, constants need to have a capital letter at the beginning. So if I tried to declare this class with a lowercase t, it's going to give me an error. So when you're defining constants like this, they got to have uppercase. So now you see our nesting level goes to 1. Let's define a function in here. And we'll just put in here hello from the class. And we'll end that. Now notice our nesting level is 2, so we're in there a little bit. And now it's 1. We're going to end the class. Now we're done. So let's go ahead and instantiate this. And don't get caught up in the object-oriented stuff quite yet. But there you can see how I just created a little class inside of IRB, and I'm able to interact with that class. So IRB is a very powerful tool to kind of test bed different concepts or play around with Ruby, and we'll be doing a lot more of that in later videos.